Hello and welcome to another knitting pod. My name is Lena and I am coming to you from Boulder, Colorado. Normally, we chat a lot about knitting, but a lot about other things, life, books, what's going on, all that fun stuff. But in today's episode, we are just going to talk about one project. This is a little series I am starting called the Project Page. So if you're just interested in something a little shorter and sweeter, I hope you will stick around. Today's project is the Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits. And let's chat about it. If you are a regular viewer, then you know all the things I've normally cast on. I have very few unexpressed thoughts. I usually am just bursting with excitement to chit chat with you guys. But this was actually a cast on that I cast on right before I was going out of town a couple of weeks ago. And by the time I got back, I had already finished the project, but the episode I taped that week was already so long and rambling that I didn't have time to talk about this one. So we are just going to talk about this hat today, right now. And yeah. So I did the worsted weight edition. The Harlow hat comes in two different patterns. The original Harlow hat is a fingering weight hat knit in 2-color brioche. And the Harlow worsted, as the name suggests, is a worsted weight version of the same hat. I think both are super popular patterns from Andrea Mowry. I think many of you have probably encountered them. She, I think, often does little hat accessory challenges, and I think she's been spinning up her own yarn and using it for the Harlow hat. So anyway, I know it's on everybody's radar. So I've been wanting to do it forever. I think I might have both patterns in my library, but I had never knit either one of them. So I will show you my version. This is my Harlow hat. I obviously went the bright and funky route, and let's go ahead and start with my yarn. The black and white, what's the word? Oh my gosh, I want to say ribbed, but that's not right. But the black and white spun version is from Woolfolk yarn in their snow base. So their snow base is really cool. They have many, 2-color yarns, and they're all named by different numbers, like one number plus another number. So this is 1 plus 15, which is black and white. And they have lots of other colorways in this that are just so gorgeous. And the second color I used, I'll show you on the other side because it was my contrast color. This is Wild Card by Hedgehog Fibers in their sock yarn. It is one of my absolute favorite colors of all time. I just think if you've watched any of my previous episodes, you know I love Hedgehog Fibers. She just does such a great job of vibrant, speckled, beautiful yarn. I think she was sort of like a pioneer in that type of yarn, and I just absolutely love it. So I have a ton of scraps from Hedgehog Fiber, and so I was so excited to use both of these. I had both of these in my stash. Basically, one Sunday morning, I woke up and I just had this urge to cast on a hat. Does that ever happen to you guys? Like there's just an urge to cast on a certain type of project. Sometimes I get it with a shawl. Sometimes I get it with a hat. Much rarer with hats. I'm more of a big project person. I don't make smaller accessories that often, but maybe I was just feeling in the mood for calling forth some cooler weather, as it's been pretty darn warm here. Nonetheless, I just felt like casting on this hat. And I don't know about you guys, but brioche is one of those things that I really need to be in the mood for. If you are unfamiliar with brioche, basically you are knitting each row twice to make a double-sided fabric. So it is twice the knitting. You are literally slipping half the stitches and then going around with the opposite color and knitting those stitches and slipping the other stitches. I have to say, I personally think the effect of brioche is so absolutely stunning. I mean, if you stretch out the fabric a little bit, you can see that it is so dimensional, and that background, those background stitches, so in this case the black, just have this incredible effect that you just really can't get any other way. So I think it is well worth the work. However, I do not like using brioche in full large pieces. For instance, I attempted a brioche sweater once, and it was one of the more painful experiences of my life. I did not enjoy that. It was just too much brioche. It was literally just felt like it was never ending. I actually opted out of doing the sleeves of that one because I couldn't do it anymore. I also do not foresee any full shawls made out of just brioche, although Stephen West has some incredible brioche patterns. I can't remember what one of my favorite. He has this one gorgeous shawl that just has, it's full brioche and it's all kind of like branching out, and it's so gorgeous, but it's just, he always uses, or he doesn't always use, but in that series, he's used the Ching fiber melted baby Suri alpaca as the background with the fingering weight yarn. So it just has this beautiful textural effect that's so gorgeous, but it's just, that is not for the faint of heart. So I think cowls are awesome. Hats are awesome for brioche, especially if you live in a colder climate. They're so warm, they're double layered. So anyway, long story short, I just woke up craving some brioche, instantly thought of this hat pattern that I've been wanting to make forever. And then who doesn't have just a ton of yarn in their stash that would be enough for a hat? So I decided to go to the worsted weight version just because it's a quicker knit, to be honest with you. Woolfolk Snow and this Hedgehog Fibers sock are fingering weight yarns, and I just held both double, which is a great way to enjoy yarn that's already in your stash. I cast on the smallest size. It's the child size, actually. I am a loose knitter. I knit continental, and I think that just inherently is a little bit looser than English style knitting. So live and learn. I have never, ever successfully knit a hat that isn't slightly too big. It's usually superwash yarn, as is this, so it stretches a lot, and I already knew that. Plus, brioche is even stretchier. So I just decided to go ahead and cast on for the smallest size. I did not swatch. I don't tend to swatch for small projects like this. I just felt like pretty confident, and I'm really glad I did, because even the smallest size, which I believe was casting on 64 stitches, was plenty big for me. So let me really quick back up and tell you about how I ended up choosing these yarns. It was inspired by none other than my favorite knitter on the planet, Stephen West. If you go back a ways in his archives, he has a pattern called the brioche chevron wrap. And the first time I saw this was when I didn't even know how to knit. I think it was literally one of the first things I ever saw that in knitting that I just was absolutely gobsmacked and fell in love and knew that I wanted to make it. So as any novice who doesn't even know how to knit does, she went out and bought the yarn without knowing how to knit, let alone brioche. So I bought the Woolfolk Snow in this black and white colorway, and I had some hedgehog fiber, because before I knit I crocheted, and I had some hedgehog fiber yarn in my stash. Once I figured out that brioche was going to be harder to learn and I had to really work at learning it, that pattern kind of fell out of the front of my mind, and it's just not something I've knit yet, but the color inspiration has stuck around, and I was obsessed with the look of this really graphic black and white yarn, set against these beautiful variegated speckled bright colorways from Hedgehog Fiber. So I've always wanted to knit something in brioche with that combination, and this just seemed like a really good time to try it out. So it starts with a tubular cast on, which I chose not to do. I am very curious how you guys feel about fancy cast ons. I personally am not a fan. I love a good old twisted German cast on, and let's rock and roll. I think it's a nice stretchy cast on. I know that tubular cast on and bind off looks so nice with brioche or ribbing. For the amount of effort, I'm not one of those people that thinks it's a huge payoff. And that is just a personal preference. I just want to jump up and go. And for me, a tubular cast on is something I know I would have to practice, and I just wasn't in the mood for that. So twisted German cast on worked absolutely perfectly. I decided to use this black and white colorway as my main color and the yellow as the contrast color. One thing I do want to really quick say about this Woolfolk, I want to say wool and folk, but that's something altogether different. This Woolfolk snow yarn comes in many other colorways. I want to say like 10, like navy and white and camel and white and chocolate and white, and even maybe some more tonal color combinations. And if you are a brioche lover but you don't want such a graphic look, check out their other colorways. Their yarn is so soft and lovely. They have some beautiful, like I said, the taupe and white or the brown and white are just so, so beautiful. A softer way to pull off this look in brioche. And then maybe you choose to do something less neon, but you have so many options. I highly recommend this Woolfolk snow yarn. The other thing is I've used it because I have a lot of it in other like bits and pieces and other garments. And as you wear it, that really graphic plied, that's the word. I kept wanting to say twisted, but I knew there was a better word. The ply, so it's black and white plied yarn, a 2-ply yarn. It softens up with the wear. Like you can almost sort of see it now that it's stopped looking so crisp, and it's starting to get kind of a halo, which softens that black and white intense contrast and gives it just a really beautiful look, you guys. I mean, it's kind of amazing. If you are someone who is okay with a bigger brioche project, I really do think this combination of yarns is really something special and fun. What else? So basically it's super easy. You cast on, and then you're using a smaller needle for the first 3 inches to make sure your brim doesn't stretch out too much. I dropped down even smaller than the needle size she recommended, only because I had that needle in my supply kit already in a fixed 12-inch circular, 12 or 16, I believe 12-inch. But anyway, I have like a little bamboo, tiny, I think it was 3.25. I think that's right. And so I knit that for about 3 inches, and then I switched to the other needle that I already had in my supply kit, which was the recommended needle. And it all worked out fine. I was a little worried that transition would be obvious, but it's totally not at all. Then you knit for as long as you want. She recommends 7 to 7.5 inches, and then you start decreasing with really simple brioche decreases. It's, I believe, brioche 4-stitch decrease, which I don't remember doing. I was a little intimidated by it, but as usual, you'd be hard pressed to find a better pattern writer than Andrea Mowry. I think she is so crystal clear and gives you so much information. It's almost, I think, because when I first started knitting, I knit a lot of Andrea Mowry patterns, and I think I was so spoiled by how much clarity there is in her patterns, that like going to other designers that maybe don't have as much information, as much clarity, was definitely like a learning curve. She's an extraordinary pattern writer and gives you so many resources. For instance, if you are a new brioche knitter, this is such a great pattern to start with, because included in the pattern are video tutorials to her little videos on YouTube that are short and sweet and clear, and she shows you how to do it with your left hand and your right hand. I just don't think you can be in better hands. And she has such a great voice. She's a super soothing voice. I just love her. She's so stinking cute. Okay, what else do I have to say about it? There are some little mistakes in this pattern. But you know what's great about brioche is there's a lot of resources online to how to fix your mistakes. Sometimes I'm okay just leaving a mistake because I just don't want to be bothered fixing it. But there was one time that I really did want to drop down and fix something. So I did have to pull out my iPad because I haven't brioched in so long and look up a correcting video. And it was actually so easy. It just made me realize, like, sometimes we're reluctant to try something new because we think there's just going to be so much effort involved. But it's so satisfying when you do it and succeed, and then you've got this tool in your arsenal. Fixing mistakes is so important. I cannot emphasize that enough. Having that attitude of knowing you can fix it and that there's so many resources to fix it. YouTube, I don't know how anybody learned anything before YouTube. It's so invaluable. Suzanne Bryan has incredible videos. Very Pink Knits has very good videos. All the really, prolific designers have their own videos to how to fix mistakes a lot of the times. So I would encourage you, if you are new to brioche, not to be intimidated, because the fixes aren't as bad as they seem. So I think sometimes we just get so panicked because it's like, what is happening? There's just so much happening. You're scared to drop down a column. One tip that I got from Stephen West that I think is so great is always fix the mistake where on the knit side. So even if the mistake is in the opposite side, flip it around and fix the mistake from the knit side instead of on the slip stitch side, because it's just a lot easier. If I remember, I will try to find the videos that helped me on my Harlow hat journey. So at the end of the day, what do I think about this hat? I hate to say, but I'm always honest. I'm never going to just tell you something, because I don't think it's helpful to just be blanket positive about everything. It's, number one, unrealistic, and number two, I don't know. I just don't think that that's super helpful. I would want an honest opinion. And I just don't love this hat. And here's why. Well, I will give you this first. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the pattern. It is perfectly written, immaculately written. So this has nothing to do with the pattern. It has everything to do with personal preference. And a lot of times you can't figure out what you really like until you do something and realize, oh, I thought I was going to really like this, but I don't like it as much as I thought I would. And this totally falls into that camp. My realization with this, and it was a big one, and I was really excited to realize this, was that I like a folded brim hat. And two things about this hat and a folded brim. Number one, I did not make it long enough. I knit it to 7 inches in the body before I started decreasing, and I thought that was going to be enough, and it is quite snug on the top. I'll just put it on. How about that? Okay. So as you can see, there's not a lot of extra up here. It's very tight fitting to my head, which is totally fine, but I do like a little bit extra to give the illusion just a little slouchy height. So this doesn't have that. It's not foldable at this point because it's so short. However, I'm scared I'm making sounds with my little microphone, so I'm gonna take it off. Also, my thing with brioche is I wouldn't have wanted to make it long enough to fold, because then it's 4 layers essentially, right? This is a double layer hat held two strands of fingering weight held together. So that's 4 strands. And then if you had folded it, I just feel like it'd be way too thick at that point. And that is just aesthetically and comfort wise, that's just not a look I was going for. So, will I wear this hat? 100%, absolutely. I live in Colorado. We walk in the winter day after day, no matter rain, snow, hail, anything. So a warm hat will never go unused. My daughter loved it. She can totally wear it. I think maybe I just realized this as I'm speaking. Maybe I'd like it better if I put a pom-pom on it. I love pom-poms, and that would give that illusion of height and make it a little even funkier. I'm gonna think about that. A couple of yarn stores that I have right around me have incredible pom-poms, and I think that'd be super fun. Tell me what you think. Should I add a pom-pom? I can always add it and remove it when I don't want it, but why wouldn't you want a super cute pom-pom? I think I'm gonna try that, and I'll report back, because that might redeem this hat more for me. I might like the look of it better if it had a pom-pom. I mean, it's already just such a chaotic riot of color and texture that, like, why not just go for the gold and add that extra layer of crazy? Anyway, so I personally have learned that I like a folded brim hat. I like a longer, where the body of the hat is a little bit longer. I knit the Robin beanie last year by Sari Nordland, and it is a top-down beanie, which is so unusual. And that is the thing I loved about it, is as I was doing the body, first of all, I love that you get all the shaping done at the beginning, and then you can kind of just zone out and knit in the round. But I also like that I kept on trying it on, and I kept on adding more length because I wanted more length than I thought I did. So then you end up, I think, with a hat that you're much more likely to know. It's just like a top-down sweater, right? It's a lot easier to figure out what length you want in a top-down sweater than a bottom-up sweater. So there's not many top-down hats out there. I think it's just a lot rarer. But if you are looking for one, the Robin beanie, that's a great one. And Sari Nordland also is just incredibly creative and wonderful. And I loved that pattern. So yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, if this is your look where you want more of a beanie than a folded brim hat, go for it. It was such a fun, easy vacation project. I finished it in a week. I enjoyed it very much. It felt so good to dip my toe back in brioche. It's been a hot second since I did brioche. I truly cannot even remember the last project I had. I'm like looking around at my shawls. I don't remember. I do really hope Stephen West puts brioche in his MCAL this year, because there's nothing I think is more impactful than a bit of brioche in a shawl. It adds so much interest and dimension and color play. So I'm going to put that out into the universe. Hopefully it lands in his ears and he does that, because I think he didn't do it this year. And so I missed that. I really did. I think Andrea Mowry has a couple of really good ones, good shawls with brioche sections. The satellite shawl is spectacular. It's one of my absolute favorite shawls. The unique short row shaping combined with the brioche is just, not only is it beautiful, but it's really a fun knit. I believe her Cinnabar shawl, she's got lots of brioche mixed with garter, because I think she always says the garter is such a nice break from the brioche, and I couldn't agree more. This was about all the brioche I wanted to handle. I wasn't sad when this ended, like, oh, I wish I had more brioche. Brioche is just one of those things. It's a very unique style of knitting, but it is oh so much fun. And I'm always surprised when really experienced knitters haven't done brioche yet. I just think it's really a technique worth diving into. And this hat, it would be a really fun place to start. And whether you're more into a fingering weight hat or a worsted weight hat, that she has both. So you can't go wrong. So I would say anything I don't like about it is just personal preference. The pattern is a 5 out of 5 for me. She's incredible. It was a 5 out of 5 joyful experience. And I'm hoping that adding a pom-pom might take me to a 5 out of 5 on what it looks like. So there you go. The Harlow hat. That's my quick and dirty rundown. I hope that was fun and helpful for you. I will be back next time with an absolutely normal, extra long, rambly episode for those of you who enjoy that. But if you are more into just keeping it all about the knitting, then this one's for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.